What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Liberty Lounge. I'm excited to be here with our founder of Liberty Networking, Mr. Jimmy Sorrells. How are we doing, Jimmy?
I'm doing great.
Great. And we are here with our special guest, Miss Carol Ann Newton. How you doing?
Good, thank you.
Awesome. Well, guys, as always, the Liberty Lounge podcast, really we bring in different entrepreneurs, intrapreneurs, professional salespeople who are crushing it in business, and we give them a chance to share their stories, lessons, and tips and tricks for networking. So we're excited for you guys to be here. Carol Ann, would love to hear really your background, your story, what you do, who you serve.
Okay, well, my background is I came here from LaGrange, Georgia in 2004. Prior to that, originally from Rochester, New York, but moved to Georgia when I was 13 because my parents were very mean to do that to me. But anyway, came up here because my husband took a job and was a paralegal in Georgia, so did my first year here as a paralegal. And I did domestic law, so, divorce, child custody, all that fun stuff. And laws are completely different here. So after a year, I was like, I don't think this is my calling. And so I had always wanted to go into real estate, just always enjoyed the thought of helping people find their forever home and, and give them the perfect backdrop to all their life moments. And my husband was like, do it. So I did.
Good.
And, and then started out with a bigger franchise, and that was sold 4 times without me ever moving an office. So I went through 4 different brokerages by staying in the same office I started in. And then actually opened my own firm in 2009 that was in Williamston. And then one of my family members was impacted by a traumatic brain injury. So I was actually going to go out of the business, but instead I wrote a training program. I thought, while she's doing her rehab, I can concentrate on that. And so started to approach new companies about using that training program, and that's how I stumbled on Stanley Realtors. So they didn't only want to use my training program, but they worked with me and allowed me to come in and be their VP of training. So that's why I started with them, and then a year after, my daughter made a wonderful recovery, and their broker left, and so the owner was like, could you broker for about 6 months until we can find somebody new? And here I am.
And how many years later was 6 months?
That was in 2012, so very long 6 months. I'm not going to base my retirement plan on that 6-month plan.
So talk to us a little bit about the journey going from starting real estate agent, really intrapreneur inside of someone else's business, to now owner, broker, entrepreneur, who's in charge of everything.
Right. So getting into real estate is, you have nobody prepares you for it because it really is your own business. I mean, you are an entrepreneur, independent contractor. You just have to kind of run everything under that umbrella of the brokerage. And there is no application to that. Nobody sits down with you and says, hey, this is, you got to have a business plan. You need to know what your marketing spend is. You got to put back for taxes. So that first year, you are blown away when you sit down with the accountant. But then as you get into the business, and even though there are a ton of real estate agents, and many realtors under one brokerage, you really do just connect with people and find people that will help guide you through that process because they want to see your success, because your success is their success. And so you learn those things as you go. My husband still says today, I sell real estate so I can buy closing gifts because I love to buy gifts for people. But as I transitioned, I think the biggest thing is just managing other agents, because when I got into the business, I knew how much money I wanted to make or needed to make, and it wasn't an option. Like, I had to make that money. We have a lot of people that come into the business, and I think that they really do want it to be successful, but they have no idea how hard this business is. This is not for the weak.
I think learning those things like your taxes and how hard it is, having an industry specific coach would, definitely help. Right?
Yes, it definitely would.
Yeah.
What's the disconnect between you who just, you came, it could have been, I look at you and I hear, I had to make it happen. And you could have joined insurance and not real estate. You could have gotten involved in anything, and you probably would have made it near the highest levels. What's the disconnect between the people like you who join and go, well, I'm going to make this happen regardless if I have someone guiding me, versus the person who joins and like, well, I'm just going to kind of give it a try. And you've got all these part-timers and these real estate agents who never sell a house and an entire year goes by. What is that disconnect?
I think it's just commitment, and I think it's your core beliefs. I mean, I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to overpromise and underdeliver, because it's not how I was raised. My parents were from the silent generation. So the commitment to your business, the commitment to your family, the loyalty to people it was driven into us as we were growing up, and it's not an option to fail in my family. And again, I think it's just they don't understand how much time and commitment it's going to take to be successful in this business.
Mm-hmm. When I first got into sales, I feel like I had a light bulb moment, and you probably had that similar light bulb moment of like, wow, I can be my own boss, and I can, the sky's the limit. And I think everyone else should do what I'm doing because it's so great. And then you actually, after years in the business, you find out like, no, not really. Everyone shouldn't be doing what I'm doing. Like this is hard. Like there's nothing. I think I used to be the person who fell into the camp of like, I would bash on people who had jobs because I was an entrepreneur. And then I realized like, especially as you build an actual business, then you start to employ people. And you realize like you can't bash on jobs when you're employing people with jobs, because now you're bashing on your own employees. So I found out pretty quickly that sales actually is not for everybody. I wanted it to be because it was for me, but not everyone's like us. Being an entrepreneur is very hard.
You got to be a little crazy.
You have to be very crazy.
A little narcissistic, actually.
And you mentioned that you're married.
Yes.
And you guys are both in the business together.
No.
You're not. Have you ever been both in the business together?
No. He was like, I would not do real estate if you paid me $1 million a year. Because he sees, the challenges. It's tough. It really is.
So what's the dynamic? Because I was on a podcast a couple weeks ago, and I talked about the idea of when you're in business, a lot of the times you have to cast that vision with your spouse. And there's this myth that happens, I think, when you have a spouse, significant other, kids, and someone says, oh, make sure that when you get into the business, you make sure you talk to your spouse about the commitment you're going to make for the next 2 years, and you think it's just going to be like one conversation. I've been having the same conversation with my wife every week for the existence of being in business, recasting the vision of where we're going, why we're doing this. What does that look like, the idea of bringing a spouse alongside you on the entrepreneur journey?
So I am extremely blessed, because he just holds on for the ride. He really does. I mean, he understands. He was in sales and marketing for years, and he retired 4 years ago. So, and this was kind of our plan when the kids were younger. I was going to be with them and do the whole mom thing. And then, as they got older, then that would be the opportunity for me to be able to kind of flourish in my career. So I know that really doesn't give you a lot of content, but I am one very lucky woman. That's because awesome. He's like, you do you. This is what you want to do, and I'll be here for the crazy, which is 98% of the time.
Yeah. It keeps it interesting.
It does.
Any advice out there for someone who maybe is not quite sharing the same vision with their spouse when it comes to them trying to build a business from the ground up?
Pray.
That's the best one.
It really is, because you don't ever know. You honestly don't know what's coming at you when you start on a venture like this. And so I think it's just the trust that you have in each other, that you're doing it for the betterment of your family, and just pray.
And then you said you didn't really launch into this career until your kids were grown. Is that right?
Yeah, really put my wholehearted commitment into it.
Yeah, 'cause it's hard with little kids.
Yeah.
I've got a 2-year-old and I've got a 1-year-old. So I mean, it gets pretty crazy, as you can imagine.
So how many realtors do you have with your brokerage?
Currently, I have 22.
Wow, that's pretty large. So what types of things do you tell a new real estate agent coming in? How do you set those expectations and the basic training of what you do to get them up and running?
So my first question is, are you crazy? Because if
Okay.
you're not, you will be in the next 5 years.
Okay.
And the second thing is the commitment level. You hear so many realtors say, I got into real estate so I could manage my own schedule. We don't.
Yeah.
I mean, our schedule depends on our buyers and
That's a good
sellers.
point, yeah.
You know, and so it's kind of like, you know, can we step out for a couple hours to go to awards day? Probably, you know, which is nice, which you can't do sometimes in hourly jobs, but we really don't have the control. And every time I hear an agent say that, I'm like, you do understand you're going to be at people's, you have to work around your client's schedule. And a lot of that's going to be nights and weekends because they can't check out for 2 or 3 hours to go look at some houses. You know, and then the training. We are I don't just throw my agents out there because this is a huge, huge commitment to a buyer or seller that we have. And I want to know that they know what they're doing. So we just are starting a mentorship program because the real estate industry, well, we can't get the law passed. We can't get it into real estate law. There should be a mentorship program for anybody coming into real estate, just like they do with appraisals.
Yeah.
But we can't get that passed. So I'm starting it now with a brand new agent, one of my agents that's been in the business for about 6 years, and it's going really, really well. And, you know, in real estate school, they teach you the laws, but they teach you no application. So
Right, yeah.
I'm sure
It's the exact same thing. When my agents make it out of licensing, I go, okay, now forget everything that you just learned, other than please don't money launder, please don't offer any rebates, and like all the things you can't do. But like forget everything you just learned because now you're actually going to learn how to deal with people because that's the big thing.
key.
And at the end of the day, they're representing your brokerage, so
Right.
you want to make sure that they're representing you well.
Right.
Let's transition just a little bit here.
Okay.
Biggest lessons overall that you feel like you've learned on this journey? How many years do you feel like you've been on this journey, you know, business entrepreneurship?
I mean, about 14.
About 14. Okay. So a lot of lessons can be learned in just over a decade. So whether that be, you know, breakthrough moment when you felt like, you know, you were hitting a ceiling that you couldn't get past, or there was, you know, a big struggle, or a mentor came onto the scene, or you were introduced to some form of personal development. Like, what's one thing that you remember along the journey that was a big deal for you?
You know, I think, and still to this day, I probably don't fully absorb it, but just that this is my business. I mean, I can make this business as unbelievable as I want to, or, you know, it can just kind of fall by the wayside, if that makes sense. And it's the ability to be able to, the full entrepreneurship, you know, and just knowing that, I mean, I don't have to be like every other brokerage out there, and I don't think I am, you know, but I think to me, it's the people. My mother ran an accounting firm with 25 accountants in it. She knew all of them by name.
Wow.
She knew all their kids, all their grandchildren. And it's more to me about the personal journey of connecting with my agents, and I want to see them succeed. I mean, if somebody leaves my brokerage to open their own, that's a huge compliment.
Yeah.
You know, because they have come full circle.
That's good.
So you're not the kind of person who wants to just kind of hold on tight forever and say, never leave me.
No,
You're the person that wants
fly.
to see people go out and fly.
As long as they go out and open their own brokerage and not leave me for somebody else. That's a little testy.
Yeah, because that can feel personal.
Yeah, it really can.
Yeah. Okay, and now let's talk about the state of real estate in general. Like, what is something that's going on right now in the world of real estate that maybe is a little bit more of a spicy topic that people maybe are misunderstanding, they're not sure what's going on, or things that you're hearing that's going around in the real estate world?
Well, I mean, I would have to talk a little bit about the lawsuit. I can't talk a whole lot about it, but in South Carolina, I can say with this federal lawsuit that the National Association of Realtors agreed to settle. It really was the best thing for our industry, and and it's not really, it doesn't have to change the way that brokerages do business in South Carolina. Commissions have always been negotiable, and even in our listing agreement, it shows how much the listing brokerage retains and how much they that they offer to the other agents. So it's when the national news picked it up, they ran with it, and some of the things that that were said were very, very untrue. But honestly, just like in any other industry, you have good and you have bad. So sometimes the bad apples have to kind of set the minimum, and then the good people will soar from it. So it's going to be a change, but
don't believe everything you hear.
No.
It's another reason I don't watch the news. I don't.
That's very good.
Do you think it's going to scare any newer agents away from pursuing the industry?
I think it may, just because of lack of understanding right now. Mm-hmm. And I think unfortunately, I think some of the really good ones that we have in the agency will probably see that are closer to retirement. I think we'll probably see them leave. We've had a lot of change in the past 6 or 7 years, and it's getting tough.
Mm-hmm. And how are people going out, and how have they traditionally, and I feel like I already know the answer to this, maybe our audience doesn't, how do you traditionally drum up business, and what are some new ways with the way the world is changing that you guys are going out and meeting people and drumming up business?
Fortunately, unfortunately, social media is where we get a lot of our business.
Sure.
And Google is where a lot of our business comes in. I personally don't take any new business. I just do my repeat referral business. But it's all about relationships. When agents come into our brokerage, we tell them, make a database of everybody because that is going to be your book of business. That's how you're going to make it. They already know, like, and trust you, so utilize those relationships.
That's good.
Yeah. And traditionally, before social media, it was still relationships. But what were some of the things that you guys did to try to drum up business outside of your friends and family?
We used to go door knocking.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
really?
You can't do that anymore because
is that illegal to go introduce yourself, or
no? But you're afraid you're going to get shot. But you did door knocking and a lot of letters, farming neighborhoods. So we'd send out information about that neighborhood and what houses were selling for. And honestly, a lot of it, we had a lot more networking back in those days.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, social media is an amazing tool, but it also is a way that it can keep you from the people in the people business, because you're like, okay, well, if I can just figure out the magic formula to get the people to come to me versus like the old school hustle of like, I got to go find the people. I got to make sure the people know who I am. And I think that there's still an aspect of that that's so important, because there's only so much that I could get from you from looking at your profile picture on Facebook. I looked at your profile before you came in here. I was like, okay, I think I've met her before. But then, like, now that we're sitting down together, I'm like, okay, I feel like I'm actually getting to know you a little bit better, which I would have never had a chance to actually, to do unless we were in person. So right. There's something about that. But social media is still a great way that we didn't have before, where I moved here from Oregon, and I found my social media or my real estate agent on YouTube. And they were doing a Welcome to Greenville type of a YouTube channel, and I bought a house from them. And, so social media is amazing. They reach me from South Carolina all the way to Oregon. So you never know how you can grow and expand from that. What is something surprising or interesting about you, business or non-business related, that maybe nobody knows about you, or most people don't know about you?
Well, I wrote a song.
You wrote a song.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was about my daughter's journey. It's called Made Over.
Nice.
And it wasn't, a member of the group, the Sisters, they're a Christian group, she sang it for me. Her husband kind of produced it. So I did it for the Brain Injury Association of South Carolina.
That's awesome.
It's kind of a fundraiser for them. But yeah, it's called Made Over. It's on YouTube.
Are you going to sing it for us?
Negative. You do not want me
But
to do that.
we can find it on YouTube, though. That's awesome.
Yeah. You should be able to see it on YouTube.
Nice.
Awesome. That's incredible. Let's transition one more time. This will be our last major transition. Let's talk networking in general. So had you been a part of other networking groups before you became a part of Liberty Networking?
Yes. I've been a part of a few, but nothing that has the
structure or
yes, thank you.
So it wasn't
it was
not an organization like
it was like a once a month.
Okay,
kind of show up if you want to.
Gotcha.
Just pay us your membership.
Yeah.
Those kind of things, but
okay. And for somebody who has never been involved in networking before, whether they're in real estate or any of the various businesses that we have represented across, Liberty Networking, or some that we have yet to have any represented in, like, why should they get out there and network with other business owners? Because most people, like myself, I've been just solo for so long, and getting into networking, we generate a lot of our own business online. So, like, why do I need to come network with other business owners? So, like, there might be other people who are thinking that, or maybe they're just shy. But, like, what would your encouragement be for somebody? Why should they come network with other like-minded business owners?
well, and I will go to the shy because that, I don't do great in big groups of people at all. But Liberty Networking makes it so easy because you meet with the same people, may have some visitors, but basically your same core group, and it helps you. It helps you to strengthen that part in yourself and to be more comfortable having those conversations. And I think, just networking overall, it's just relationships. Mm-hmm. It's getting to know those people, and it's understanding what they're about so that you can help them grow their business as they help you grow yours.
That's good. Yeah, it's all about the relationship, 100%. That's good.
All right, I'm going to get one from both of you. Let's do a tip for someone who's shy. How can someone who is shy plug into a networking group? What would you recommend that they do? They're showing up maybe either as a guest, to one of the chapter meetings, or they're showing up to a social and they're super shy. What should they do? We can start with either of you.
Go ahead.
Just do it. I mean, it's kind of like when YouTube came out and video came out. And I have a YouTube channel. I'm sorry you didn't see my video on why not to move to Greenville, because that one got the most hits on my YouTube. No. But anyway, it's the same as that. You hated yourself on video. You hated how you sounded on video. And I'll never forget, I was at a conference and the person was speaking about being on video, and they're like, "What don't you like?" And this person yelled out, "How I look." And he's like, "Well, that's the way you look." So,
right.
I mean, don't let that stop you.
Sure.
And I think that, like, especially with Liberty Networking, like I said, it's a good way to get over that shyness, because it helps you. The more that you see those people, the more they talk to you, and the more that you want to talk to them. So you just got to throw yourself in there and do it. Conquer your fears.
Yeah. I always recommend, if you're shy, and I mean, there's probably more than half of people in a network organization are introverts. I would recommend taking somebody with you that's not shy and say, "Hey, these 3 industries are the good referral partners for me. Can you introduce me to somebody directly at this meeting or this social that, whatever that may be." And then, if you're in a social that has a lot of people, make a goal to meet 3 good contacts. You don't have to meet everybody there. You don't have to be there the whole time, but make you 3 to 5 good contacts, but follow up with them, the next day or whatever.
So now I'm going to flip that question on its head. For somebody who's already involved in the network, how can they make the shy person who's visibly shy feel welcome? Because I had a chapter meeting yesterday. Guy showed up a few minutes late, visibly very shy, does his thing. And at the end, I unfortunately was caught up in a conversation. I watched him kind of stand around and then turn and just leave. And nobody talked to him. Nobody connected with him. And he was out. And you could see it in his eyes. He was like a puppy dog. He wanted someone to talk to him.
Yeah,
so what encouragement would you give for?
I mean, be intentional.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you, specifically in a chapter meeting, you should have two to three people, and that's what they are looking for is the guests to make them feel well. Of course, you want the whole chapter to do that, but you got some leaders in that area in each chapter to help that person feel welcome and just talk to them and find a common ground and something that you can relate to them.
Do you ever find yourself like being an introvert, like being attracted to the other introverts in the room?
Y'all just sit and stare at each other?
We do. We really do.
That's so funny. You have a good day? Yep, good day. All right, done.
That's it.
I love it. Well, take a second and just really talk a little bit more about your business, what people can reach out to you for, like what specifically your business is looking for, whether it's experienced agents, new agents that you want to train. If you're just looking to say, hey, here's what we can do with buying and selling homes, like what specifically, do you want to kind of take a chance to plug?
Well, I think when it comes to listing, so that's kind of my passion. I do help buyers as well, but listing is what I love. We have a staging company, so we've got 2 or 3
nice.
warehouses of furniture, and we will go in and stage a vacant house. So if you have to if you have to transfer for a job, but you need to sell your house, we do 3 rooms of staging for free for our clients. And just being able to, we service from Oconee County up to really the North Carolina line.
Oh, wow.
With the agents that we have, because they're in all different locations. And we love to help buyers because it's like, every house has a story. Mm-hmm. And you want to help your people connect with the house based on what their interests are. So a lot of people will say, well, I want to be 5 miles from my job. If that's all you enjoy doing, be 5 miles from your job. Yeah. But what do you enjoy? Because if you get too far from the mountains or too far from the beach and that's what you enjoy, then you've just messed up. And
that's one reason is to have a realtor who really understands your needs and what you're looking for, because those things are going to be important to you, and that matters in the long run, right?
Right. That's the first question I ask buyers. What do you enjoy doing?
Okay.
And they're like, what? And I'm like, there's a reason I'm asking you this question. Just answer the question.
So tell us, how does that play into the psychology of real estate and working with people, and what all that entails?
So we say if you've been in real estate for 5 years, you should automatically get a psychology degree because
Wow.
We save marriages. We probably break marriages up.
Sure.
We, the hardest thing is when you have that, that seller that's been in their house for 50 or 60 years and they've lost their loved one. So that's the first huge change. And then their family's like, you need to sell the house, you need to move closer to us. So they're about to just turn their whole world upside down.
Yeah.
And, and it's walking through there and helping that person to understand, we're not selling your life. We're just selling the walls that you built your life in. And this is a business transaction. This has nothing to do with with the children you brought home here, with the memories that you have. Those leave with you. And wow. This is just the environment that you made them in.
Sound like you've done that a few times.
I have.
So you really have to be compassionate and understanding and educate. You got to do it all.
Yeah.
Well, tell us one crazy story from a real estate transaction.
Just one.
Just one.
I did have, let me see if this is, it's probably not the craziest, but I was representing a buyer and he was buying a house and he was an engineer. So he was wanted everything pretty perfect. We had, negotiated all the repairs and we're kind of headed down the road to closing. And we go for the walkthrough the morning of just to make sure everything's the way it should be. And he goes into the crawl space because they were supposed to get some junk out of the crawl space. The seller had taken every light bulb out of the house.
Oh my gosh.
Including in the crawl space. He had taken every blind down that he was supposed to leave. And it was just very contentious.
Yeah.
The closing was very, like, we almost called the attorney and said, we kind of need two separate rooms because everybody's on edge. Well, when we get to the closing, we're all in the room together, and the other agent that was representing him, I knew very well. We've done a lot of transactions together, and so she just went around the table, and she was introducing herself to the buyers, and then I, in turn, introduced myself to the seller, and he said, "Oh, so you're the one that brought this great buyer to my house that wanted to." Devalue everything in my home without taking into effect that he was buying a used home. And my buyer went over that table after the seller.
Oh, no.
And I was like, man, this is like being back in law because we had this happen all the time.
You were used to it. You're just
I'm like, all right, hey, thanks, but that's probably the craziest thing that's really ever happened.
Yeah.
Honestly, I've been very fortunate in real estate because I just get good people.
That's awesome.
On average.
Yeah.
If you're a good person, you'll get good people.
That's
I
right.
hope
So how can people find you? Your website, social media, how do they find you?
Yeah, so it's carolannewton.jacksonstanley.com. You can call me, 864-617-5450. That is my personal cell phone. You can find me on Facebook, Carol Ann Newton, and you can find me on YouTube, Carol Ann Newton Realtor, and Instagram, Carol Ann Newton.
Let's go.
Nice.
Thank you so much for coming in. We
Thank
really
you.
appreciate
I
you.
appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, guys, we will talk to you next time. We'll see you soon.